Okay, so I'm gonna answer a basic question about what's up before bed and eating. So why you stopping eating and drinking 2 hours before bed? So I'm making my way through my notes for you, and I'm on point number one. Um, First, I'm going to do a list of fasting terms with you. Uh, let's see if I can find something that I don't have to like. I could think about stuff, but I'm going to just make a kind of a special video, maybe intermittent fasting. Um, no, you know what? I could probably just do this really quickly. Okay. Um, okay. So let's go for. So we've done fasting, eating, drinking. Okay. So now I'm gonna go do a few kinds of things like this. Okay. Water fasting, dry fasting, intermittent fasting, um, uh, eating window. Okay. Um, uh, uh, and I'll give you these terms for now. So on a rationality chart, let's insert one here and draw it out to compare these resources, okay? So that you can build this visual spatial memory and reasoning, just, to this simple activity. So I'm gonna go to uh, make a few of these. Um, okay, and first we're gonna start with the concept of water. So do you want more of water or do you want more of fasting? Okay, and so you want to ask questions like that because you start with the first problem, which is, okay, so you have water and you have fasting. Are you comparing how much water you get compared to how much fasting you get? Okay, so the answer here is that's the difference between dry fasting and there's a difference between dry fasting and water fasting. So if I were to separate water and fasting, do I want more of water or more of fasting? Then I get, um, if you're fasting from water, then that's called dry fasting. So do I want more of water or more of fasting? Is more of water or more of dry fasting? Okay. So, so let's change this one, okay, and bring this back to these belong together. Water and fasting are together, one concept, okay? They're not two separate concepts. So since they're not two concepts, we bring them back to one. Let's go back to water and fasting, and here I'll update that right here. Water fasting, okay? Or um, more of water fasting, or do you want more of well, what's kind of opposed to water fasting here, right? So we're gonna go to the other end here. I'm gonna go. Do I want more of water fasting, or do I want more of eating? Okay, or of eat. For more water fasting or more of eat, right? So do I want more of water fasting or what is water fasting, right? So do I want more of water or no water? Do I want more of water or more of food? Well, water fasting is what? So water fasting is only drinking water without supplements, food, or other intake usually, okay? So I really like usually because people kind of do whatever they feel like and they kind of just call it whatever they want to. So, but basically water fasting is still when you're only drinking water, okay? So that would be like Dr. Goldstein? Goldhammer? Dr. Gold, Goldhammer. So I want to say, oh yeah, Goldhammer comes up. True North. This guy will be an interesting phone call if you call him. But they're very expensive, but they do this water fasting, which is apparently getting really great results. Okay, so I cannot afford them, but they're quite amazing. I did have a nice conversation with them. Um, I wouldn't usually use them because I would actually rather go with supplements myself. All right, but I'll say good things about them because that was really cool that they did those things, and I actually just really like the supplements. That's what's up with me. I love eating, I love drinking. If I do a long-term fast, I would rather do it with supplements. Okay, and I don't know much more about them, so anything about them could just change. If you want to know anything about them, go look for them. So okay, next is water fasting compared to what? Just compared to more of water fasting, or do you want more of normal eating? So is this like a restriction that broadens to no restriction? Okay, does restriction broaden to no restriction? Does water fasting broaden to include food? Okay. Or do you want more water fasting or more of no restriction? Well, it's not include no, it's include affirmative language. So more of um, more. What's the opposite of this restriction? Would be like more diversity. Yeah, food diversity. Okay, or more food diversity. So do you want more of water fasting or do you want more food diversity? Because food diversity solves the problem of not having enough nutrition and you kind of figure out what you need without really knowing what you're targeting because you're eating more diverse ranges of food than you would have understood by studying by yourself. So water fasting compared to food diversity, for example. Okay, so it kind of like took its own route there. So you can compare some of these concepts. So do I want more water, or do I want more of drinking water? Mm, do I want more of dry fasting? Do I want more of water fasting? Do I want more of eating? Okay. Um, what is dry fasting? Okay, what is dry fasting? So it's kind of a similar problem. Um, now we can ask something like, we know what water fasting is. Let's compare it to what dry fasting is. Okay, and insert drawing. Okay, so suppose you want dry fasting. What is a dry fast? A dry fast is when you don't drink water, right? So, but you can eat food, for example. Then there's water in food, so then there's limits to water. Do you limit water to no water, therefore no food, or do you limit? You can have water that's in food already, or do you do a water fast to just to make sure that, like, if you do a water fast, do you limit the water and food to a time during the day, so there's a very long fast without water? Do you have to, you know, put dry fasting together with OMAD or something like that? Like, how do you manage water intake? So these are kinds of like different problems and things you'd have to think about as if you could really understand what dry fasting is and why you're not drinking water and whether that's good for you or bad for you. Because why would you drink orange juice when you're not drinking water? You know, just to be obvious. But anyway, it wasn't obvious a long time ago. So, I don't have to assume things. But, it's obvious as insulin and sugar and stuff. So, okay, so you got some dry fasting happening. Do you want more of dry fasting or do you want more of, um, uh, so let's actually wait here. I'm going to start to go dry fast. And okay. Um, okay. So if you're going to dry fast, you get no water. Um, uh, food has water. Okay. So um, we're going to consider water elimination as an issue. Okay, because what do you mean that there's a water restriction, but you don't understand what your water sources are? So you want to think about what? Things like, what are water sources? Okay, what else? Uh, you can change words from something like no to something more affirmative, like water restriction. Okay, water restriction is available. In Australia, where it's dry, and then you have New Zealand. So okay, dry fasting, water restriction. Dry fast, food has water. Dry fast, water sources, because food has water, right? So um, dry fast, water elimination. Water sources, water elimination. Water restriction, water elimination, right? So it was just something like water restriction, water elimination, dry fast, water elimination. Dry fast goes to all of these. Uh, Water restriction, food has water. Why? Because it's like we have a water restriction. Why does food have water? And then it's like water restriction, water sources, right? So food has water, water restriction, food has water, there's water sources. Food has water, there's water elimination. So dry fasting is kind of measuring up to what here? You have dry fasting. Dry fasting is, I'm going to include the concept in water. So I got sources, elimination, food, and restriction. Sources, elimination, food, and restriction. So because dry fasting, so I might have to compare OMAD. Food has water. So solutions, OMAD. Okay, OMAD measures up to the food problem. OMAD is 1 meal a day. Because, for example, do I choose OMAD or fasting model? Okay, what fasting model do I choose to enable water restriction on a healthy diet, on a healthy restrictive, you know, fast? You know what, be nourished and all that during that time. Um, uh, and then, um, so you have the OMADs to fix the food problem. You have sources, which is also related to OMAD, because OMAD or fasting models will have to do with your sources of water. Because what if you're not drinking water, right? What if it's in something else, like your food? So, um, uh, and then you got to think about what's the purpose, right, of dry fasting. So water sources are endogenous as well as exogenous. So, um, endogenous or versus exogenous efficiency. Efficiency. Okay, so like if you're drinking water on a dry fast, then you're no longer dry fasting. Okay. So I'm gonna go more of dry fasting, or more of endogenous supply. Okay, but if I go to endogenous supply, then my body already has enough water because I'm dry fasting, therefore my body makes water. My body makes water because I dry fast. Okay? My body makes water because I dry fast. So my body makes water because I dry fast. Okay? So from within. Okay? I want to add that. Endogenous. So my body makes water because I dry fast. So that handles water sources internally. It handles that there's water in things that you're eating as well as you're not eating. You have water in you. You have water. Your body has water. So, your body eats itself, as it were. Water restriction, because it can also supply itself. So water restriction, well, it reduces the water restriction because your body's making its own water. So if you dry fast better, then you get less water restriction, okay? Because your body's getting better supply of water, you're getting better efficiency with the water you have, that kind of thing. So those are different possibilities to consider based on, who you are. You decide for yourself what you're doing and what makes sense to you right now. So another thing to consider is that um, you're eliminating water, but you're creating water. Okay. So in a sense, this isn't about not having water. This is like dry fasting. And when you get to the optimal point of dry fasting, then you're getting more water from your body, less from outside the body, and it's healthy. So, what am I going to compare dry fasting to, right? Do I want more of dry fasting or more of optimized supply? I'm going to go optimized supply. And the reason why I want to do this really easy, kind of a get out of jail free monopoly card with you is because I am kind of just randomly choosing factors here. First of all, and second of all, I want to consider supplies. Do I want more of dry fasting? Do I want more of optimized supply? So I wouldn't be thinking more of water, not water. Am I Monty Python hermit? No. What you want is to compare what you have compared to what you would have and look at the benefit. I would actually have those supplies if I didn't have any. Therefore, it's okay. Therefore, I can reduce what I have. That's not even a sacrifice. That's a win. It just means I change the timing or frequency of how I intake it. Okay, so that's cool. So that's not a loss. That's a gain. Like I don't have to pay for that water. I don't have to use that time. I don't have to do the other stuff. I can just pay for food water and supplies that are going to optimize me. Because I like being healthy that way. I like what I get out of my body. It doesn't necessarily cost cheap to eat that way, by the way. But over time, it was something like, you know what, the cost is quite well balanced. So um, I would choose between dry fasting and optimizing supplies. And then I would consider factors like this, okay, like the model you're using and stuff like that. Okay, so saving clothes. So when you stop drinking and eating 2 hours before sleep time, that goes along with optimizing supplies in your body. That's all available for you to sleep wonderfully. Plus, your body has more nutrients for you to sleep wonderfully and to do things that you need to do to repair. You have supplies without having to do extra. So there are benefits like that. There's also a lot more to it than that. For example, you can start comparing different body systems and what's happening when you're sleeping. Why you need hormonal control by not eating sugar and stuff. For example, why you need not to wake up from REM and things like that. But these are just some concepts to get things started. Just kind of like take something simple, graph it a little bit, various draw things with your own hands and however you like, and kind of like see what works for you and keep putting that together. Take care.